Define the word Concord as a state of peace and friendship and agreement. It's likely that most residents of New Hampshire's capital would consider that a suitable description of their city if they stop to think about it. But Concord's pleasant atmosphere is perhaps more apparent to an outsider, especially to someone like myself. I came first to Concord to visit, and then I found a job to do because I wanted to live here. You get your first impression of the town's relaxed and agreeable air just from walking around the streets. Nobody seems to be in a hurry, and even the town's businessmen act as if the next big deal could wait a little. They ordinarily don't stop to admire the lawns and the flowering shrubs, but you wouldn't be too surprised if they did. And the city's solicitude for pedestrians is usually a surprise to outsiders. The traffic stops for you, not you for the traffic. This is a state law, but Concord enforces it, and the city has run up some remarkable records. One time, more than 2 full years without a fatality in the city area. Many people feel that Concord's agreeable air is reflected in its handsome civic center. Have become the nucleus of a group of impressive public buildings, each representing a different style and taste and era of architecture. The State Supreme Court building is one of the oldest, dating from 1895. It derives from the Richardsonian Romanesque tradition. The Christian Science Church was given to by Mary Baker Eddy. The style here is Gothic Revival. The Historical Society building is an example of Greek classic, popular with American architects for a number of years. The red brick and white trim of Concord City Hall, 1903, is usually considered to be modified Georgian in style. The center has 2 examples of more modern architecture. One is the Concord City Library, a little gem in its perfect proportions and simplicity of line. The other is the State House Annex, or State Office Building, dedicated and occupied in 1940. The fact that most of these buildings are centers of everyday activity, engaging the efforts of a considerable number of people, may be a factor in setting the tone and temper of Concord's life. These are white-collar workers, occupied for the most part with local and state government and its many ramifications. Occupations range from messenger to administration, from stenography to creative art. They involve all kinds of skills and training. In all, perhaps 750 people are employed in this area of Concord. Another 200 or so are similarly employed not too far away in the home offices of 2 sizable insurance companies. Both are housed in handsome new buildings which reflect a period of steady growth from small beginnings here in Concord. Both are locally owned and managed, and the city is rightfully proud of them. The mechanics of carrying on a modern insurance business is similar in broad respects to a wide segment of American industry, in that it combines a number of operations which must still be performed by hand, with a growing list of others now performed largely by machine. But no machine is completely automatic, at least. All require a greater or less degree of attention by people who possess considerable skill and know-how. Another attractive feature here is that both companies operate as big families. Everybody knows everybody else, both inside and out. Farm Bureau Mutual is noted by George Walker, son of one of the founders. This company started in a 1-room office and has moved 3 times into successively larger quarters. The company serves mainly farm and suburban residents in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont through agents who are usually farm people themselves and thoroughly acquainted with all the ramifications of present-day agriculture. Head of United Life and Accident Company is Douglas Whiting, long associated with the company and considered largely responsible for its growth. In recent years, the concern has developed a special field providing insurance for servicemen all over the world, with several offices in Europe and Far Eastern islands. Another large group of Concord people, perhaps more than 1,000, are only a step or two removed from the white-collar class. These are employed in Concord's wide-ranging graphic arts business. Concord printing establishments will provide you with virtually every type of service you can think of, from the simplest of business cards to elaborately gotten-out books. Some of the products of Concord print shops go no farther than the city limits. Some of the magazines printed at Rumford go all over the world. And along with the varied production is a variety of helpful advice and guidance. A good printing job, as any printer will tell you, begins with careful planning. A number of Concord shops, like the Old Family Doctor, are non-specialized. They perform a fairly large range of operations. People sometimes wonder if there's any relation between the high production of the spoken word in legislative sessions here and the high production of the printed word. The answer is in some degree yes. More and more printing jobs require process color, and Concord people can turn that out too, little or big. Presses like these run 2 or 3 colors at a time on large sheets, with additional runs to provide as many colors as wanted. But accurate color is as important as speed and size, and that requires skill and experience and a sixth sense working with black and white negatives and printing inks to produce a result that you can't tell from the original. At Rumford Press, one of the biggest printing houses in the Northeast, a separate stereotyping organization prepares plates for letterpress color work. You start with an electroplate for each color. Make an impression in fiber, then in lead, in high-pressure presses. Trim it to the right overall size, then put the proper degree of curvature in it to fit on a printing roller. Rumford does high-speed color printing on presses which can accommodate up to 7 colors at one time under certain circumstances. All letterpress printing requires a considerable period of careful make-ready, involving skills learned only from long experience. Downstairs, big presses turn out trade papers and magazine types and varieties. Automatic binders and collators and conveying devices receive press sheets and in scarcely more than the wink of an eye deliver finished products ready to ship. If all these had "Made in Concord" branded on them somewhere, we'd be famous all over creation for sure. Another Concord concern makes a specialty of typesetting, using tape punched out on machines like these to operate a thin linotype. An old-time printer might get the jimmies at the sight of a linotype clicking away all by itself, as if ghostly fingers were moving over its keys. Type is made in galleys, as in regular practice, then reproduce a series of pressure processes on tough, lightweight fiberboard, which can be shipped around at a fraction of the cost of metal. This concern will provide the printing mats for a whole book, or any part of one. Another group of craftsmen turn out half-tone engravings for use in all types of printing. You bring in your copy, explain if you want it high contrast or low, what size, what screen, and when. It gets photographed on film under arc lights. The film image is burned into metal. The metal is etched and trimmed, mounted, and is ready for a proof. Then you compare the photograph you brought in with the image as it will appear on the printed page. If the bookbinding job you need, the New Hampshire bindery will do anything from a booklet to an encyclopedia. Like other phases of the printing business, more and more the operations here are done by machine. Even the covers are put together by flying steel fingers and are then put on the books by machine. But all these require people to guide and supervise. There are always special jobs of one kind or another which the boss will do himself, by hand. And Concord is lucky to have a full-fledged silk screen shop included in its graphic arts group. Over the years, these people have produced many of New Hampshire's promotional posters, both from their own designs and others. Some mechanical equipment is now used in silk screening, but many people still consider it a handcraft and value it accordingly. It has a wide variety of uses in addition to splashy poster making. Concord's graphic arts business and the city's activities in connection with government are well established. Other enterprises have not been so fortunate. We live with a couple of industrial ghosts. One of these is the famous Concord coach. These were manufactured here for more than half a century and shipped all over the world. The old Abbott and Downing shops remain unused and unrecognized by most of Concord's residents. But the coaches continue to rumble over their accustomed routes every night on 10 million television screens. The other industrial ghost is steam trains. Remember? The Boston and Maine shop buildings are still to be seen, used now for a dozen different purposes. Concord banks, not then housed in their present handsome abodes, were among the earliest to sense that railroading was on the decline, and that Concord would need to find some substitute for the shrinking payrolls of the shops and offices. The result was a drive to attract new industries. Results were not achieved at once, but over a period of 10 years, the city was able to bring in and encourage and help to expand a whole group of new enterprises. The banks played an important part in this program. As a result, we have a new diversity in our industry today. Cordovan leather, for instance, an outgrowth of local skills and experience going back a good many years. This is locally owned and managed. We have branch plants. This shop makes the recording elements for a widely used dictating device, used all over the world. This is the kind of repeat item that makes business stability. Our most spectacular branch plant development is the Sprague Electric Company of North Adams, Massachusetts. Starting modestly in this building with relatively few employees, it soon moved to a bigger one, doubled its space within a year or two, then began running extra shifts to keep up with increasing business. The product here is a specialized line of capacitors and transistors, electronic components they are called, for myriads of uses in both industry and defense, including the Minuteman missile program. These are produced by a combination of engineering knowledge, skilled workmanship, and expensive automatic machinery, with some departments running 3 shifts a day. But this plant is particularly an engineer's paradise, for a good part of the company's research and development program is based here. Young fellows like Dave Yetton, who grew up in New Hampshire and graduated from the university, find golden opportunities for their talents. Part of the job is to develop variations of components to suit customer specifications. Dave might sit in at a top-level conference, then design and carry through to completion, through many stages, a transistor with special characteristics. This process requires knowledge in electronics, engineering, chemistry, and at the end becomes the sum of many people's experience. This experience is being constantly widened through a variety of training courses at college level, provided by the company for its employees. All of this is backed up by office people, stenographic processes, production supervision, and expert direction. It's a made-to-order industry for a city of Concord's character. And that's true the other way around, I think. One thing that makes Concord interesting is the variety of things that people do. For instance, this Made in New Hampshire directory lists more than 50 Concord concerns which are producing some kind of marketable commodity. And they're not all factories, of course. We have the only real working granite quarry in the state. This is the kind of operation that gave the state its nickname. Concord is headquarters for the New Hampshire-Vermont Breeding Association. This is a farmers' co-op which maintains an impressive group of dairy sires for use over a 2-state area. Headquarters for the League of New Hampshire Arts and Crafts is also located in Concord. This is a non-profit organization to provide instruction for people interested in working in a number of craft fields and a market for their product. The League has several shops in other parts of the state. League members make everything from jewelry to carved birds, from pottery to furniture. The League conduct classes in a number of kinds of handwork. This particular group is learning to enamel on copper as a step in making various kinds of gifts. Pleasant Street, our main artery to the west, is another axis of varied activity, with a fraternal home, state hospital, religious organizations, St. Paul's School, and the city high school, all absorbing the interest and energies of many groups of people. Farthest out is our fine new hospital, built by public subscription and gifts from Concord and its surrounding area. And along with it is an attractive nurses' home. It all requires the services of a considerable group of people. Another numerous group is necessary to operate our school system. Concord is a township of large dimensions, so that many of the children come by bus. And let us not forget our largest class of employed people, the housewife and homemaker, always busy to provide the fullest measure of family life. And I think it's true that Concord, for the most part, puts the enjoyment of living ahead of making a living. No small part of that pleasure in living is provided by the city itself through its recreation department and schools and library. Skating is maintained all winter at the city's White Park, with a weekly class for girls who want to learn to do figures. And if you think the instructor looks a bit familiar, you're quite right. It's Chief Carlson who gives his time once or twice a week. The city sponsors a men's basketball league, which plays through the winter and winds up with the award of a cup to the winning team. The Police Association sponsors a boys' club. For a winter program, the boys play games and do crafts work and enjoy a full-sized basketball court. In summer, they attend a camp of their own near Concord. The city also conducts an art class for more serious-minded youngsters. This is no paint-throwing exercise. These children have a sustained and intelligent interest in what they are doing. Teachers are volunteer, and a room in the community center serves as the studio. The Concord City Library has an active program the year round. Exhibits, movie shows, special events. There's always something going on. The library also maintains a bookmobile which makes regular visits to some of the schools away from the center of town. Concord is a musical city. We have several active choral groups and a chamber orchestra associated with the state hospital. It gives 1 or 2 public concerts a year. Our little theater puts on serious plays and others not so serious. This thrilladilla from the gay 90s was mostly written, lyrics and all, by the people in it.
My loving wife to guide me, please save my hide and be my bride, and we'll honeymoon by the sea.
Concord is also proud of its high school marching band, seen at school football games and similar occasions. The city owns and operates the Beaver Meadow Golf Course, and the course is well patronized through all the pleasant months. In the spring come the housewives, duffers all, to learn how to get around in under 150. Instruction is compliments of the city, and fairly intensive. Ouch! Oh dear. Over at the country club, the girls sink 20-foot putts with the help of the pro and a magic camera, I think. The club also has a fine swimming pool, and plenty of Concord people find time to use it. The city maintains a number of pools in several parts of town, with instructors and lifeguards on hand in each locality. Concord is an old town, and its life has always been graced by the presence of lively and colorful personalities. One of the earliest was the redoubtable Hannah Duston, who stands in granite majesty on the banks of the Merrimack. Near this spot, Hannah and 2 helpers tomahawked and scalped 10 Indians who were taking them to Canada, then escaped down the river in a canoe. The family admiring Hannah do so with all sincerity. They are the Cedric Dustons, direct descendants of Hannah in the 7th and 8th generations. Mr. Duston is a Concord businessman. Later, it was the dashing young Benjamin Thompson from Massachusetts who had Concord all agog. He gained fame in Europe as Count Rumford, but his daughter returned and dominated Concord society for a generation. In the mid-19th century, Concord was the home of Franklin Pierce, 14th President of the United States. Pierce lived for a time in this house on Montgomery Street. His office was on Main Street in the southwest corner of this building. The house in which he spent his last years may be seen on South Main Street. He and his family are buried in the old Concord Cemetery. About the same time, Mary Baker Eddy of Christian Science fame was growing up on a hill farm just south of Concord, where she was born in 1821. This granite pyramid marks the site of the farmhouse. But for most Concord people, it's the old Capitol which provides the strongest sense of continuity with the past. It began modestly enough in 1818 with 2 stories, a small dome and the famous gold eagle. In 1865, after a battle to keep the capital away from Manchester, a 3rd story was added and the portico and a larger dome. This served until 1911, when again more space was needed. This time Manchester offered $1 million to get the capital, but Concord won again, and the building was enlarged a 3rd time. A good many people visit the building every year. They look at the array of battle flags, the portraits of military men who won renown in American campaigns all over the continent. They sit in the seats of the mighty, study the handsome murals in the Senate chamber which tell stories of New Hampshire's beginnings. Concord shared in all of this and plays an increasingly important role in the modern life of the state. Our town is truly the heart and the mind of New Hampshire, and of this we are proud.